We have now learned that on October 3rd, Afghan forces advised that they were taking fire from enemy positions and asked for air support from U.S. forces. An airstrike was then called to eliminate the Taliban threat, and several civilians were accidentally struck. This is different from the initial reports, which indicated that U.S. forces were threatened and that the airstrike was called on their behalf.
Well, General John Campbell stated yesterday that United States forces were responding to a request from Afghan allies in the strike that killed civilians at an Afghan hospital. So why were many in the mainstream quick to point a finger at American forces? Fox News contributor Pete Hegseth was in Afghanistan training these forces for a couple of years. He knows that region very well, and he joins us now. Pete, what's your assessment in terms of how quickly the finger-pointing started, beginning with our own commander-in-chief?
Yeah, it starts almost immediately. The apologizing starts immediately. Listen, this is a tragic incident. You've got innocents in a hospital that have been killed by a bombing. But where does this blame really lie?
Where?
It lies with the Taliban. It lies with the enemies that fight amongst civilians, that use these targets as shields. Always have, always will. So for the president to come out and just say, condolences, well, of course condolences. But why don't we remind people, as the commander-in-chief in a shooting war still in Afghanistan, that it is the enemy, the Taliban, who uses these hospitals to hide their fighters, that turns them into targets and puts us in the impossible position. Do we listen to our Afghan allies who are calling in these strikes because they're taking fire, or do we not because we think it's a hospital? I mean, these are the split-second decisions. That's not our fault. That's the fault of the Taliban who forced that hand.
You were there. You trained these forces. Give us some insight into how this could actually happen, where they stand right now, and the danger that we face.
Well, I would say this is not an excuse, but the fog of war is very real. I mean, when you're being shot at, when Afghans are relaying coordinates, when they're saying we're shot at from here, this is happening, this isn't happening, you've got air support, we've got less troops on the ground embedded. We'd likely, we surely had some there. What level is uncertain, but special operators likely trying to call in coordinates and determine targets. It's not easy. So again, I'm not exonerating the incident, but it's complex.
And before we go, how is it demoralizing at all to our forces to hear their commander-in-chief so quickly turn on them without the right information?
Of course. I mean, but they've gotten used to this. They've got a citizen of the world commander-in-chief who's more interested in apologizing for every mistake we make, as opposed to standing up ardently for what our men and women do and defend our country for. It's obviously sickening over time, but you sort of get numb to it and used to the fact, well, that's how he's going to react. You just hope your local commander is going to have your back, that your brigade commander, your battalion commander is going to have your back. Even then, rules of engagement are so stringent that it's difficult for the warfighters.
Major Hegseth, thanks for being here.
Thank you.